Data is the driving force of the 21st century. Open access data can be used to inform public policy and to facilitate digital economy. At the same time, open data can provide a basis for digital surveillance or can lead to the violation of the copyright. Today we'll talk about the new copyright reform and its implications for digital civil society and philanthropy in Europe. Our today's guest is Pavel Richter. Welcome, Pavel.
Hello, hello.
Pavel has over 10 years experience of leading international civil society organizations. He was the executive director of Wikimedia Germany, as well as the CEO of Open Knowledge Foundation in London. Since 2018, he is the member of the management board of the Association of German Foundations based in Berlin and is responsible for developing the digital strategy at the association. On 26 March 2019, members of the European Parliament approved the copyright reform. There were controversial debates about this legislative change, particularly about the introduction of the so-called upload filters. What is an upload filter and how does it work?
I think it's easiest to compare the new law with the situation before that. So before the new copyright reform, everybody could upload a picture, a piece of music, a video, or a text to Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, or wherever. And it was then that if you were the copyright holder of said piece of music or a film, you could go to YouTube, Facebook, and claim your copyright and say, look, this is a violation of my copyright, and YouTube and the other big platforms would remove the content very quickly and very fast. That changed significantly with the new EU copyright reform, because from now on, it is the responsibility of all platforms to make sure that every material that gets uploaded to their platform is not in violation of a copyright. If it is a violation of a copyright, they are liable for that violation and have to pay significant fines to the content producers. So what will happen is that the big platforms will be very careful in choosing what kind of content they are going to allow. And they're going to be overly careful when it comes to copyrighted material. So what you will see in the future, probably in the very near future, if you try to upload something that even smells a little bit like a copyright violation, platforms will stop you from uploading it. And then you, as a user, can actually do nothing because you have no right to upload anything to Facebook, Twitter, or wherever. And therefore, well, you have basically run out of choices and cannot upload the content you wanted to upload, regardless if it was a copyright violation or not. So what's the intent behind this new reform? I think it's important to understand that nobody wants upload filters and nobody wants that, that you or I are not allowed to upload copyrighted material. What the big content providers and content producers are seeking are license agreements with Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, and others, so that they get paid by the large platforms for using copyrighted material. That's basically the overall intention of that copyright reform.
Right, and what do you think? Will the new copyright reform lead to fairer conditions for artists and will restrict the rights of online giants such as Facebook, YouTube, Pinterest that you mentioned? Or will this lead to more internet control or even censorship?
I'm pretty sure Google, Facebook, Twitter, and the large platforms will even benefit from it because, as always, they have both the technical resources and the financial resources to work around this and find solutions, build something, or pay license and royalty to content producers. That might hurt their bottom line and their shareholders might not be happy, but in the end, it's not a big deal for them. It just costs money, basically. The big problem lies with smaller platforms, with innovative platforms, with non-profits, with civil society organizations who have not even who are not even close in having the same amount of resources, neither financial nor technical, to find these solutions. they will be forced either out of business or out of the internet, and they will have a pretty hard time negotiating with the large content producers and content platforms. So I see this as the main threat is to civil society and smaller organizations and platforms. I'm always very cautious to call this censorship, because censorship by definition is something that is done by a state. A private actor, not even Facebook or a large global corporation, can censor something because it's their choice what they want to put on their platform. And you have no right. It's not a right, it's a privilege. And secondly, I do believe that the intention behind the copyright reform is a good one. It is actually very necessary to have an updated and modern version of copyright, because copyright was made basically for the printing age, and we are now in the middle of the digital age, and therefore changing copyright was a good idea, and it definitely is necessary. I am afraid that the way how they did it is actually not really helpful, and I wouldn't be very surprised to see significant changes within the next couple of years.
Protesting against the controversial reform, the German Wikipedia blocked its content for an entire day, a very visible and indeed powerful campaign. In the past, you were CEO of Wikimedia Germany and Open Knowledge Foundation, and are a passionate supporter of open access data and free access to knowledge and information. Does the new copyright reform mean an end for digital civil society?
I don't think so. I don't think so, because the one fundamental design principle of the internet is that if you have these kind of disruptions, be it censorship or other kinds of blockage, that is treated by the internet as a technical error, and the data is routing around it. And that's one of the fundamental design principles of the internet. And you can find the very same spirit and the very same mindset in digital civil society. Therefore, I'm very confident that they are going to find ways to deal with this situation. And I even see it kind of as a chance, because the debate about the copyright reform over the last weeks, months, even years, actually mobilized a lot of people and made it very clear to a lot of people that the internet is not a given, and the kind of freedoms that we have come to enjoy with the internet are not a given. They are under threat, and they can be broken, and therefore it is necessary to be engaged. It's necessary, for example, to be in Brussels and to be part of the negotiations and be part of the discourse on the EU level. And I'm very sure that that is a lesson learned out of the copyright reform, and therefore we are going to see quite a lot of organizational moves into Brussels and onto the European scene from civil society organizations. And I do see a very interesting opportunity here for foundations and philanthropy in general to support these kind of new initiatives on the EU level.
According to Daphne, there are over 147,000 public benefit foundations in Europe, allocating millions of euros for different causes, religious ones, educational ones, social, etc. So in your opinion, how can public benefit foundations contribute to fair and free internet and provide access to knowledge and information?
I think they can do at least two things. One is they can start to support digital civil society discourses and organizations. That is something where we see quite a lot of activity from American foundations and some in Europe, in the Netherlands or in the UK. But overall, European foundations are a little bit reluctant to support the digital discourse and organizations who are in this field. So I really see this as a new area and a new field for foundations to engage in. And secondly, digitalization touches on every aspect of life, and therefore every field where foundations are already working is influenced by digitization.
Pavel, you're responsible for the digital strategy at the Association of German Foundations. Beginning this year, you started offering online consulting hours for foundations. From your perspective, what are the main challenges foundations are facing in the digital era?
I think there are two main challenges. One is an organizational one. Foundations are organizational and therefore are subject of digitization themselves. They have to adapt, they have to change as organizations, be it in fields of communications or how they organize their memberships or interactions with volunteers, whatever, all is very much impacted by digitization. And that is always a challenge for an organization to adapt to a new environment. The second one is knowledge and know-how, because every field of activity of a foundation will be impacted by digitization, be it human rights, social impact, children's rights, or the environment. You do need, in all of these fields in the future, you will need data literacy, understanding of main concepts of digitization. And therefore, it is a pretty big challenge for foundations to build up that knowledge and to build it up in a very competitive environment, because people with these skills are highly sought after, for example, by the platforms we were talking about earlier. Therefore, this is a very new challenge for foundations. The upside to it is that foundations have always been very attractive to a certain kind of people who want to make an impact in the world, who might not look at their own benefits and salary in the first place. And therefore, and I know this from my time at Wikimedia and Open Knowledge, we never had a problem to find highly talented technical staff because they wanted to work in an environment where they could make an impact. And even if it's only for a couple of years, it's something that both sides could benefit from. Therefore, I'm not worried about the future, but I think that is a really big challenge for foundations.
Thank you, Pavel, for the interview.
My pleasure, Anna.